Hello, everybody. This is Monday, the 31st of August. This is either the last day of winter or the last day of summer, depending on where you are. So I hope you're happy with either way. I'm definitely happy that it's the last day of winter. So this is the static site editor group conversation. It's the engineering focused edition. And as usual, I'll start off with a few highlights from last week. So first up, Chad finalized the marketing site monorepo refactor. That's been coming along for a long time, and really glad to see that in place now. Also, Chad, with the initial work done by James Ramsey, managed to delete 5,000 stock review apps that GitLab.com repo, which it's always great to delete stuff. I get a big kick out of that. And in Vasily merged the functionality that now means our text stat page in the handbook is dynamically generated from a YAML data source. And he also identified and fixed an issue with passing merge request description with the push options. If there was a project default set already, where it wouldn't take the value pass through in that language as well. And then Chad introduced and fixed an issue causing community forked MR pipelines to fail. And Enrique implemented a feature to bring the markdown attribute definitions as tooltips, which also got merged last week. And he also pre-formatted the first 3 sections of the handbook that we were working on pre-formatting. So all around a good productive week.
We also turned back on merge trains.
That's true. We turned merge trains back on, and it hasn't gotten stuck yet. So
yeah, it's still unclear whether that's related to deleting the 50,000 associated refs or not, but it seems better.
I'll take it. All right. On the general side, so just as mentioning again, Vasily is on PTO this week, Monday through Wednesday. This week's refinement session, so I forgot actually to finish typing this. So tomorrow's session will be about the defining the user experience and technical requirements for our editor. I'll add a link to that soon. But essentially, there's a lot of discussion that's been had already in that issue, and to kind of like I feel like we're in a place where we just need to kind of like review it, make some decisions, and put a bow on it and go with what we have. We need to make the best decision based on the information we have at this moment, similar to how we did the first time around. And when things change, we'll adjust. But so tomorrow's session we'll focus on that, and then Thursday's session it's early morning my time, so it's APAC training session. Will be about reducing. We'll be focused on the issue that deals with reducing the GitLab.com repo size. So there's a lot of previous issues and stuff that we opened that I just need to go and clean up that epic to make sure it's still relevant and have a look at all the related issues there. And then a final FYI is just to remember to keep updating our static site editor unfiltered site. It's been a while since it's been updated, and I just want to make sure that everybody's staying on top of updating that. All right. Moving over to the GitLab product. So for static site editor, Enrique, can you give us an update on the things you've been working on and focusing this week?
Yes. Before jumping into that, I want to highlight that for tomorrow's issue requirement session, one of the questions that I would like to discuss synchronously is what it means to support a new static site engine. I think that's something that affects in a very important way the way that we structure the WYSIWYG editor, because between static site engines, there are big differences to achieve in the techniques to achieve the same goal. So I really will appreciate a discussion about that. Okay, so static site editor and the formatting issues. Last week we delivered a a fix for a bug that was breaking the table of content syntax in the handbook pages. I think that's the only bug that was like actually breaking the handbook pages when editing with the side editor. So it's a very important one. Hopefully this will land very soon this week on production. Besides that, we work on adding a command line tool on the handbook repository to apply formatting and linting the markdown of the handbook pages. The purpose is like automating that partially, because we still have to be very sure that this formatter is actually making changes that make sense and it's not breaking the pages. But so far, in my experience, I've been using it to format some handbook sections, and it's been very helpful because making all of the lists with consistent in the bullet that it uses, or changing all of the order lists, those are changes that are very repetitive, but takes a lot of time. So it's very helpful. This week, we are gonna keep formatting more handbook pages. I dropped something here about why we are doing this. Basically, it's that the WYSIWYG editor does not understand markdown syntax that is not conformant with common mark. And we are trying to make all of the handbook pages conformant with that specification. And also, in my experience last week, I found handbook pages with broken markdown syntax, like this table was not defined well. And then with this tool, we are fixing all of those issues. It will definitely improve the editing experience of handbook user. Yeah, there is more information in the issue that I shared there. That's it on my part.
So, two quick follow-ups on that. Will this tool that you're using to pre-format the pages, can we use that going forward in terms of detecting potentially issues and providing that as a linting or even auto-fixing things?
Yes, we can. I initially added that tool as a command line, but we can integrate it as part of the CI of the pipelines, and we can just run that command as a job in the CI and check that there are not users are not introducing new problems in the handbook pages.
Okay. Slightly unrelated, but a conversation Eric and I just had around that table of contents breaking. Eric had a thought: can we move away from specifying those cram down custom attributes to using a field in the front matter to indicate kind of like that the page needs to, what needs to happen there? Is it feasible, or is this something that really requires those custom attributes there?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Okay. All right. That's something we can investigate after the fact, because if we can remove that, the unnecessary kind of like syntax, that will be great either way. But it's good that we fixed the editor to handle it anyway. Thanks for that, Enrique. All right, Derek is not joining us today, but I do know that he has been full steam ahead now on the editable front matter. As far as I know, he's been working on the code that will parse the front matter, and specifically the different supporting different formatting. So whether it's YAML, JSON, TOML, or whatever. And so my expectation is that, and from what I understand, is he'll just carry on with that. Then, Chad, you're on introducing a configuration file in a static site. What is the update on that?
So I haven't started anything on it yet. As we discussed in our prioritization, I'm wrapping up some of the higher priority handbook stuff. The first was fixing the bug about community forks, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish the work of removing the changelog from being committed to the repo every day, because that's about 2 to 3 meg of raw diffs every day. Even though they get compressed down, that's one area that the repo size is just slowly creeping up. So we decided to go ahead and get that one thing out of the way sooner than later. And then after that, I'll can give all my focus to the config file work. And since I haven't done any real product work since the work on the web IDE when I first joined back last year, I just need to get familiar with our processes and how we do everything to start with.
Yeah, one thing I can just mention is that we're not planning on introducing the need for configuration for editable front matter in the short term. We're going to go with the first iteration of just using plain text fields. So the main focus on the configuration is definitely for the image upload functionality.
Right, just the one sort of example, simple configuration file to get all the plumbing in place, and then we'll add more values.
Yep. All right, onto the handbook. So now that the initial mono-refactor work is behind us, the main focus on the handbook side for us as a team will be on migrating to frontman away from middleman. As part of this work, there's the prerequisite tasks that we need to sort out. Namely, we need to fully decouple the handbook from the marketing side assets. And we've started discussing that, and it's a lot more complicated than it sounds. But I plan on having putting some time together and having a look at that again. Then there's also we need to convert some of the custom extensions that we wrote for Middleman related to code owners as well as the breadcrumbs. We need to convert that to a helper, and so those are all kind of like tasks that we need to start chipping away at before we can actually get to the actual conversion of the site from middleman to frontman. So none of these are high priority at the moment. It's kind of like a secondary priority for us at this stage. So the other work related to the static site editor definitely takes preference. Moving on to GitLab Docs. So I'll just kind of like, I noted the update Vasily provided in the issue last week. So on the issue relating to updating the header anchor links with the product here. So all the work is done, and the merge requests on stages of review and approval. And so those just kind of like need to move through the system, and then once they are at a good place, you can coordinate with a technical writer to get them all merged at the same time, because they're all dependent on each other. And after that, from a docs point of view, the feature that we will be focusing on is providing, first of all, a setting in the admin section so that you can choose whether to use the /help for the GitLab UI help links, or have it point to the GitLab Docs website. So that's all part. That in itself is a prerequisite before we can get to offline docs supporting in an air gap environment. So we'll keep iterating in that direction. All right, moving on to Gitter. Eric, can you give us an update?
So on the Gitter side, we have room data export complete, and I plan to merge that and ship it this week, which will finish off our export sort of epic there, which will be nice. And move on to other things. A new thing that I started last week was GetLab Pages and working on redirects there, which is totally new to me and working with Golang instead of JavaScript, which I'm used to. But it's been a good experience trying to learn all the strategies and patterns that you use to build stuff in Go. And I have the redirects working from the config, but of course it's more work in progress than final security wise and tests So I need to finish up some of those to-dos and address the review that just happened this morning. But I'm getting some great help from Camille and Jaime, so it's all is going good there. And it's pretty exciting for me.
So those are just in the form of meta refresh pages. They're not anything at the router level.
Currently, they're meta refresh tags. That's the solution for GitLab Pages. But this new feature is our redirects netlify config. So it reads from that config file, single point of redirect config, and then it redirects to however you configured that. And so that the plan is to remove all those meta refresh pages in our repos now. And specifically trying to dog food this in the GitLab Docs project.
Yeah, I was going to call it, this is specifically helpful for GitLab Docs, and we really appreciate you jumping in because this is something that was on their backlog. They hadn't been able to prioritize, and it was blocking the ability for us to dog food GitLab Pages with the Docs project. So it's opening up a huge opportunity and helping out another team. So very much appreciated.
Yeah, and I will also add that this feature, once it lands, also opens the door to dog fooding GitLab Pages for the handbook down the line. So there's I will mention, Eric, that I've been very impressed with you just jumping on this and getting going. Notwithstanding the help Chameleon and Jaime is giving, your kind of like proactiveness on this has been great.
Yeah, great job getting going.
Yeah.
Hashtag dad joke.
Right, on to growth marketing. Lauren.
All right, we are reviewing our marketing site CMS proof of concepts this week. Those are all finished, and we'll be looking at the developer experience, editing experience, and then MarTech integration opportunities. And then thanks, Chad, for fixing the community contributions.
Breaking and fixing.
Yeah, it was complex. Thank you. That's all.
Lauren, is there like, are you going to be recording the results of those areas that you're evaluating in the issue? It'll be very interesting to follow those results.
Yeah, we'll probably, yeah, we're gonna review them in the issues, and that's where we'll document the feedback. And then I might create videos so people can understand the process for editing with each of those systems.
Cool. Yeah, this is an area that I'm definitely interested in following along and seeing what the outcome is.
So there were
right.
no people excessively confused about the marketing repo move, or?
No, it went really well. There's just a couple MRs they needed help rebasing, but it was really good. Stoked.
I think the moral of that story is like Git is pretty magic about moving files and still handling them.
Yeah, that it is. All right, and over to product, Eric.
Yeah, I don't have a ton, but I do want to highlight something of a milestone. I was looking at our dashboard, and we have exceeded 50 monthly active users for a new feature. I think that's actually pretty impressive. I know it doesn't sound like a lot when we have millions of customers and users on GitLab, but that's big. I think that it's worth celebrating. I mean, that's a lot of people that are trying out this little feature, and obviously it's mostly members of the GitLab team, but we do have some external users, and they're integrating it on their site and using it at least once a month to qualify for our metrics. And that's really something, because we started out the first time we instrumented, we were under 20, so we're growing fast. I think I'm paying pretty close attention to this number. I mean, just so you can see where my head's at, because our new stated goal for product is to just drive monthly active users on the platform, rather than our previous strategy of going wide and just having breadth over depth. We're really trying to refine the experience and drive more users in each particular stage. So as we look at sort of the next topic and beyond, when we're prioritizing features, I'm ultimately going to be asking myself, how is this going to improve our monthly active users? How is it going to draw new users into the platform and make it possible for either a new group to start using the feature, or make it more delightful so that more people that can use the feature are using it more often, things like that. So it doesn't change anything immediately. This is how I already was thinking about our product. Obviously, when we start with sub 20 users, we want to grow that no matter what. It's not a huge shift in how I'm prioritizing the backlog, but it's nice to see it grow so fast, and we'll start thinking about some actual goals that we can set and how we can drive that further. But I think we should all be pretty happy with how fast it's growing. And as far as the other agenda item, I'm just starting to think about 13.5, and Jean and I were talking about some major themes. It'll be a continuation of some of the work that we've already been discussing, the frontman migration for the handbook, the editable front matter, and the configuration file, which I forgot to list it here, but I'm assuming those will have some work carrying over into 13.5. I want to make sure that we're not pushing either of those too far. As Jean mentioned, we want to get to usable and viable as far as like the feature is useful, but we don't need to push it too far before we start thinking about some of our other goals, and in particular, the potential refactor of our editor, which could be a much larger task. And if we can start picking up work on that, even another research issue or potentially initial implementation in 13.5, I think we'd want to do that sooner than later, so that doesn't just, so we're not building on top of something that we're going to replace anyway. And then the only other thing that I think I'd like to try and squeeze in, and I'll probably talk more about this with Michael in our product and design call later today, is try and get a really small MVC for adding an MR title and description into the publishing workflow, the submission of that content. That's one of the major pieces of feedback we're hearing. Obviously at GitLab, we have very strong opinions about how an MR should be formatted. Our static site editor does not allow you to add that context when you're creating the MR, and you have to then go to the MR page and edit it. Seems like a great opportunity for us to iterate in 13.5 on that. And I know that we've been doing solution validation. You've all been seeing the issues. I think we can whittle that down to something achievable in one milestone and get just the MR title and description, not worry so much about committing multiple times to the same MR or assigning reviewers and things like that, which are all great parts of that same workflow solution validation that's been going on. I think we can take just a piece of that and ship it in 13.5, hopefully. I also will set up our planning spreadsheet so we can all collaborate, but if there are any bugs or low-hanging fruit, UI, UX, or even some tech debt issues that you feel passionate about, you feel like would be worthy of prioritizing, please let me know. I'll be doing a sweep through the backlog as well. Jean said he would too. But if there's really small little things that are just picking away at you, we want to be conscious of that and make time in every release. But at any point, if you want to advocate for a bug or a paper cut or something like that that you think is worth fixing, please feel free to bring it up.
All right.
And that's it.
I like the shape of the monthly active users graph. It's only 4 months, but it's got a nice, almost exponential curve to it.
Yeah, I mean, at a point we'll probably not be exponential anymore, but hopefully, it'll keep going up pretty steep.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.